Welcome to Chant It Down, and welcome to 2023. This is episode 218. This episode is with Elana Freeland. January is going to be a hardcore month on Chant It Down. Not hardcore as in lots of stuff coming at you, but hardcore as in content. And some people may perceive it as dark information. You may feel helpless sometimes, but the overall theme of this show has never been to make you feel powerless or less than you are. You are amazing and can be filled with the ingredients to make an explosion of a difference around you. Today's info is cutting edge into the environment that you see that has been altered due to the nanotech that has been sprayed for 25 years or more repeatedly. Many people have not dived deep into this world that Elana is here to inform you about, but I encourage you to get her books and listen to the material that she does. And there's a lot of this conversation already on this show if you dive into the mini-series of the Real Skyfall series about chemtrails and our EMF pollution series. This is a crazy time to be alive on planet Earth, and that's just what it is. So when you dive into today's episode, understand that there's a lot of research that has been done behind this to give us a picture that may look grim, but it's not totally grim. It's just that we have to understand the situation that we're in first to understand our way out of it and that we chose to be here. Support Chant It Down. If you can, become a Patreon member, listen to Afterthoughts, buy an album, put a tip in the jar, helps with the show. Now, without further ado, enjoy episode 218. Welcome back to Chant It Down. I'm your host, Loomis. This is Chant It Down Radio, where we deprogram from the deep program. This is episode 218. ChantItDownRadio.com is the website. And welcome back to a Happy New Year to everyone. And I got a new mic for the new year, so hopefully it sounds a little clearer. We are in a world that has been transformed under our noses while you're busy at work. With that statement, there's a number of things that come under that banner, but what I'm specifically talking about is a synthetic environment has been created by the spraying of our skies. A synthetic biology has been sprayed down and integrated with our bodies, amongst other things. We are surrounded by a grid of antennas and a network of frequencies that fill in the space around us that is bursting at the seams if we could see more of the spectrum of visible light. Clifford Carnicom, an independent researcher and scientist, said in an interview last year that the biology of this planet has been changed and that the environment has been altered. And let's add in that many people signed up for an environmental bioweapon mRNA shot that we're just beginning to see the fallout from. Put this all together, we have a lot to talk about. My core listenership, I think, is informed about more of this than most shows, but it's complicated and there's a lot to unpack here, and that's why I brought back Elana Freeland, third time on the show. Well, for those that are new to Elana's work, she is an author, ghostwriter, lecturer, storyteller, and teacher who dives into chemtrails and electromagnetic weapons. Also has spent many hours into researching MK Ultra and survivors of ritual abuse. She is known for a trilogy of books into the chemtrails and electromagnetic weaponry issue, which is all connected. The first book, Chemtrails, HAARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. The second one, Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown. And the third one, recently, Geoengineered Transhumanism, as well as the Sub Rosa America series, which goes into the deep state history of America. She has dedicated her life to informing the masses with painstaking detail into the unseen electromagnetic grid that has taken over our lives in the background and straight over our heads while people are busy with the rat race. She covers what I see as some of the most important information that we need to be paying attention to. Elana, another welcome back to Chant It Down. Thank you for coming on. How have you been?
Thank you for having me. And yeah, I'm doing pretty well. It's really interesting this winter, as you know. I mean, everything's happening around me geoengineering wise. I live up here in the Pacific Northwest where I call it the cauldron. This is where we mix a lot of the weather that goes across the United States.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I've been in the Pacific Northwest, it seems like the programs there are very intense. Like they spray even more than out here in Hawaii, and I thought it was bad out here.
Right. And it isn't just spraying, it's also they drag the natural weather up from the South Pacific along the coast, bypassing California and Oregon, which are in drought conditions. And then they pull it up here. So we're in Cloud City, basically. It's all clouds. And ironically, this is where people, I would say, don't recognize what's going on in the sky at all. It's really amazing. They can't tell one cloud from another.
No. Well, it's hard here in Hawaii too, because when they spray offshore. So people just think they're clouds. And so people often don't see the actual trails above our heads. But yeah, people are oblivious everywhere. I've still under the thinking that about 5% of the world actually knows that this is going on. Maybe 10 if we're lucky, but it still hasn't really gained that much momentum. There's been a few good movies out there that people have watched, like Frankenskies and What in the World Are They Spraying, that have kind of helped get it bigger out there. But still, I don't see a huge, and well, even the people that are in this, whatever you call truth movement, a lot of people aren't really focusing just on this agenda alone, which is so much bigger than actually a lot of things that people are putting their focus to.
Well, I think it's the biggest. I think it's the biggest elephant in the living room. And it's just that it's just the weather. I mean, like when people meet who are strangers, what do they talk about? The weather. I mean, everybody's used to it just being sort of a back burner fact, but they don't understand that. And that's what this last book does really, is to point out how, I mean, you didn't read the massive subtitle, which is, it basically tells what the book is. Geoengineered Transhumanism, how the environment has been weaponized by chemicals, electromagnetism, and nanotechnology for synthetic biology. I mean, that's why it's such a big book. It's 650 pages.
Wow.
In order to point out how all these systems are made to work together to create basically an Earth that is barely livable for a natural human being. We're heading toward transhumanism now. And so they've created an environment, and that's what the term epigenetics indicates. It's been an epigenetic move for decades to create an environment that is basically inimical to a natural human being and is really set up for a transhuman who is cybernetically adjusted to be able to be plugged into AI systems. That's the bottom line, and that's why this is the biggest elephant in the living room.
Yeah.
It's not just about the weather.
It's about everything living. It's about every living thing. Now, I've wondered.
Yes, it is.
I just came to my mind. I wondered, like, a tribe that's still isolated and uncontacted in the Amazon or Papua New Guinea or somewhere like that. Now, they spray everywhere in the world that I know of, just about. Would they be being transformed a bit from this transhumanism, or they're not?
No, I don't think so. They don't have the EMF environment. That's huge. It's huge because it basically triggers the technology that we've breathed in from the chemical trails for 25 years now. It's the EMF, electromagnetic frequency, that does the triggering. And so the person living in the rainforest down in Brazil, who's still tribal, no, they're not going to have nearly the challenges that we have. However, their environment is diminishing, and they all see that. If you read, interviews with them or film crews that go into the jungle, you can see that they're aware that something is going on with the earth.
Yeah. Well, and of course they're not going to, but the officials are going to blame it on climate change and global warming and all that.
That's right. That's the cover story.
Yep. That's the cover story. Well, I know it's been a while since we talked, so I thought we'd play a little catch up as far as when we last talked, which was actually pre-COVID and pre-5G rollout.
Oh, was it that long ago?
Yeah, it was. It was. Let's see. It was maybe 2019 or 2018, one of those years. I'd have to look it up in my archives.
Okay, yeah.
But I've since bought an EMF meter, and I've seen these 5G towers go up, and they're everywhere now. I've seen them in the background of videos of people going through even the ghettos of places like Baltimore, where there's run down, burned out buildings, yet I see a 5G antenna on street poles. And now it appears that they're turned on here as there's a switch that looks like it's up. So that looks like it's turned on to me. And I've gone up to these towers with my meter and there's no reading. Have they really turned on 5G yet? Or is it just on in some places? I mean, what do you make of that?
Oh, no, it's on. It's on. It's on. And if you're still looking at the towers, you need not look at them anymore, because what they've done is they've minimized a lot of the technology. So what they're doing is dropping billions and billions of nanosensors in the stratosphere that then fall earthward, the ones that don't go into centrifugal force and end up circling the planet above the equator. That's a ring. We're making a ring around planet Earth now. I do that in my PowerPoint presentations, always show how that works. It's also the cover of Under an Ionized Sky. Those are all metallic, and it's purposely done for communications, but more so for planetary lockdown. Space fence lockdown. And so when you're thinking of the towers, you should be thinking of how the 5G have micro antennas, micro everything. Mm-hmm. And you've breathed in the nanosensors. They're in your body. You've got millions of them in your tissues and your brain and everywhere, and other nanotechnology, which you've breathed in. And so all of that is being communicated with 24/7, even out in Hawaii, in the middle of the ocean. It's a 24/7 deal where you are now plugged in to what Lockheed Martin has named the space fence, because Lockheed Martin owns all the patents for the space fence. And we call it the smart grid, might be what people are more familiar with. You can think of a grid, which of course the geomagnetic grid that is in the Earth and is connected to the magnetosphere 22,000 something kilometers above us. That's all connected. So in a way, this whole thing of the electromagnetics, and now it's calling our attention. The entire inoculation drama is calling our attention to not only doubting what experts have been not telling us all these years, but also maybe making us think a little more planetarily. I mean, that's one of the things that a pandemic can do, is you begin to get this sense of something bigger than you in your little nation state and your little life. And that's good. There's some good things that are coming from what we've been through the last few years. But we have to really sort of dig for it, because the fear mongering going on by the mainstream media that are all corporate controlled. And what we're seeing basically is a massive corporate takeover of everywhere on Earth. And that's not a good thing. So when you're thinking you understand the smart tech and that it's over here or it's over here, it's not that way anymore. It's really, we got all the satellites up above us, over 100,000 satellites now. And then we've got the geomagnetic grid under us that the ionospheric heaters that I write about, like HAARP, mm-hmm. can zap and activate so that we now have lightning coming up from the earth, not coming down to the earth, just we can have it coming up from the earth. So in other words, we're all plugged in. So is there 5G? Hey, you should be thinking 6G, because wherever there's 5G, there's going to be 6G. These are the two electromagnetic technologies that can handle what we now are paying attention to through the inoculations. But it's because the geoengineering piece of this whole thing is always absent from thinking of what's being inoculated or injected into people's bodies and living in their blood and going into their brain, et cetera. The geoengineering piece is never allowed to be part of that building of a mental picture of our real condition, because 5G and 6G really, really have to do with running that tiny world, that nano world that is now inside us, all around us, above us, below us, etc. So our challenge now is to learn how to live with the nanotech world. And to some degree, we're going to have to really think like transhumans in order to realize that, as Clifford Carnicom said, the biology has been completely changed. And he has new essays now at carnicominstitute.org that people really need to catch up on, which indicate that this assault on the blood, which would be the inoculation as well as the geoengineering program, this assault on human blood has changed our blood irrevocably. So where are we? We're already on the transhuman road, whether we're inoculated or not. But how are we going to deal with this nanotech world? That's the primary question in my mind now. It's, yes, okay, the electromagnetics, I'm always telling people, get rid of your cell phone. You don't need that cell phone. It's a weapon system. I'm telling you, it's a weapon system. But it's so clever and it's so cool, and I can ask it anything and I can find out driving directions and blah, blah, blah. Yes, it is very clever, extremely clever, as clever as the devil. I mean, you know, it's like, how are we going to change this mindset that what was true yesterday is no longer true today? So now we need to, in a way, you know, we could speak in computer terms, get some new software in there in order to see our position and condition in life as it really is, instead of really making assumptions that there's a normal to go back to. There is no normal to go back to now. Whether or not we have this elected official or that elected official, or whether the global network takes over entirely or whatever, we're still going to have to deal with the technology, including the electromagnetic technology. This is Rudolf Steiner. You know, I'm a student of Rudolf Steiner, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. So Steiner has said many things. He's been quoted over and over recently because of the inoculations, wherein he said 100 years ago that a vaccine would be created by materialistic doctors who, and that vaccine, if you took it, would immediately remove any spiritual conditions, any spiritual considerations that you might have made pre-inoculation. So that's already a done deal. The other thing that he says is that we're going to have to deal with machines the rest of our incarnation cycle, you know, as human beings that are living on the earth. And then they die and then they come back. And I mean, to me, that's all, you know, when I was 8 years old, I realized that was true. So that is true. We have to deal with the machine. This idea of being Luddite and going back to nature and living off the land and stuff. I love those ideas. But we still, if we're serving humanity and protecting humanity, and making sure that the human race actually continues and doesn't become a machine, a transhuman machine, we're going to have to pay attention to our technologies and what people are doing with them, and really live less of a personal life, not entirely. You can't live a non-personal life. Well, I suppose some people can, but live for the public, for humanity, for the vast number of us who are a particular kind of being. And we want to retain. Yeah, okay, so sometimes it seems like people are sort of dumb and, are couch potatoes and don't do what they could and don't live up to their potential. And yeah, that's all true, because human evolution, spiritual evolution, is a process that goes on and on and on from one life to the next. And we want that. We do not want to be subject to a technology like artificial intelligence. We do not want them running us like they're running the weather now. And all the weather is run by AI now. I'm telling you, there is no natural weather other than the weather that arises in the South Pacific and out of the living planet's being. And that is immediately scooped up by the U.S. Navy and merchant marines and all the geoengineers, and it's completely changed. So, the weather is gone. And, if we destroyed HARP today, would we go back to what we had? No, we won't. No, this is a huge network, a huge nervous system now that has taken over the Earth, and we live on the Earth. And it's a corollary nervous system is now built inside of us through nanotechnology and controlled by electromagnetism, particularly millimeter wave and terahertz size wave. That's our condition. So that all is a long answer for your question about the towers.
It's huge. I almost don't know where to begin, because there's so much there that we could go a lot of directions, but I see, I guess it sounds a little bit hopeless when you think of that, but at the same time, there's still the human spirit, and they haven't taken away, at least in most people that I know, the human spirit. So I feel that there is hope. But before we get into that, I guess going back a little bit, we talked about these injections, and we're all full of nanotechnology. The Morgellons fibers are growing in each and every one of us. So I guess a question I've been wondering is, what are these shots doing in conjunction with Morgellons self-replicating nanotubes that are already in our bodies? I mean, and you, and I'm sure many people listening did not get this, but the people that did get it, is there a way to know, or is that a question that you may not know the answer to, but
oh no, I know the answer. I know the answer.
Okay.
I don't know anyone who knows as much as I do about these answers at this point. I mean, it's not that I'm tooting my own horn. It's like, where are the other people that are studying this? Where are the other people who are really pressing in on this? Humanity is at stake, my friends. Humanity. We're not talking about just a little old program over here. And somebody said to me the other day, yeah, geoengineering is just another issue. Well, let me tell you, if you knew what geoengineering really is, you would not say that. Remember how I must have said on your show before about how let me see if I've got a copy. Yeah. How Clifford Carnicom in the film you saw back in 2000, I would say it's 2005, Aerosol Crimes. He's the one who came up with the 7 operations of geoengineering. So let's get straight about geoengineering. It's weather engineering. Yes, huge. All the weather is controlled now. It's chemical electromagnetic operations. Lots and lots and lots of experimentation going on in our atmosphere, in the troposphere where we breathe, and the stratosphere above us, and above that, the ionosphere. I mean, the ionosphere, my friends, is completely controlled now. and primarily by the U.S. Navy. And that would include Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, the top 10 military contractors. They control the entire ionosphere, which is about 14 miles above us. And that's huge. The ionosphere is the weather, space weather and weather here. So that's total control. And the other thing I might as well throw in here, let's put it here, is the jet stream. The jet stream is totally controlled. I mean, remember, they've yanked it down all the way to Texas and brought polar vortex cold to Texas.
Yeah.
Now that's power. We're talking power here, not guns. This is way more than guns. Way more.
The powers of God.
Yes, it's basically a kind of just wanting to do away with God and nature, the handmaiden of God. So the third operation beyond the weather engineering and the chemical electromagnetic is the planetary geophysical. And they're changing the planet. That's what geoengineered fires are all about. They're burning down forests. They're burning them down with laser and nanotechnology. I just finished rewriting that section for a book I'm writing. Okay, then the fourth is directed energy weapons. And the directed energy weapons is kind of dicey now, because you think of plasma weapons and Star Wars and things in space. No, the directed energy weapons now are primarily through the dual use technologies that we all think are so cool, like the iPhone. The iPhone is a weapon system. It's a directed energy weapon system. The computer is a weapon system. The your Internet of Things with your fancy fridge and your fancy stove and all the 60 hertz in the wall. And I mean, there isn't anything I can think of that the military does not have the frequency to that we have. So what that means is it's all weaponized. It can be used as a weapon. It can be used as a convenience or an entertainment item. It's really, in a way, it's completely up to them. So then next is surveillance and neural manipulation. And that is, when I say surveillance, it isn't just that they're watching you. They're now reading your biometrics. As Mr. Harari said, Yuval Harari, the number one right-hand man of Klaus Schwab, Mr. Inoculation himself, says, you're being surveilled. There is no future tense in this. It's happening now. You are being surveilled from under your skin, he says. Under your skin, he says it over and over and over and over, so that you have been informed that you have a technology inside your body and brain now that is being completely connected with AI systems. Okay, that's a done deal, and that is what they mean by neural manipulation being with surveillance. It's the same thing. Neural manipulation is mind control and behavior control. Then the sixth operation is nanotechnology, synthetic biology, transhumanism. I put them all together. And this has to do with the hive mind, with creating a hive mind through the inoculations for those who are inoculated. I can't remember how many millions or billions of people have been inoculated now. But what about the uninoculated? Well, we're all getting it from the sky. I mean, that's the problem is, there's some things in the inoculation that are not exactly the same as what we're breathing in. But we are all breathing in, for example, graphene oxide. Yeah. We're all breathing it in. And so the graphene being found in the serums that's being shot into people in the inoculations, we're getting it from the sky as well. It's in our lungs, it's in our bodies. So that's how I see it. Is if I were to say who the culprit is, yeah, we could say the U.S. military, we could say this and that, but the real culprit for me regarding chemical trails of all these years, 2.5 decades, and just about everything else that we're now subject to is Big Pharma. Big Pharma. Big Pharma is behind the inoculations. Big Pharma is behind the chemical deliveries to airports where jets are loaded up with these substances to spray and spread from the air. So nanotechnology, synthetic biology are roads to transhumanism. And we can talk more about that. Okay, then finally, the seventh operation, which I hardly ever go into because I really don't have time and I don't feel it's as important as the other things, is the cloaking and obscuration and detection of exotic propulsion craft, which are ours, by the way, ours since Operation Paperclip. We brought a lot of Nazis over here and they brought the tech they've been working on all through the war. And now the sophistication of these exotic propulsion craft is probably something I can't even imagine. And plasma life forms. There are plasma life forms. Some of them have been here for thousands of millennia. Wilhelm Reich talked about them. Trevor Constable talked about them in his fantastic book, Cosmic Pulse of Life. There are pictures of them, but there's also new ones. And we saw a little bit of that in some of the doctors and researchers who are doing electron microscope work on the serums that are being injected into people. And we see there entities that we really have never seen before.
That's right.
And they are semi-biological and inorganic, not plasma. So there's all this is going on in the geoengineering. It's just that the people are kept ignorant as to how vast this program really is, right? Don't you think that's it?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, even people that are researching the truth just kind of put it in, oh, it's just geoengineering. It's just weather manipulation, but it's everything. It goes down to every fine detail of life. And I think that you're talking about these new creatures or life forms. There was, I think it was Dr. Carrie Madej put it on. This is where I found out from. She under a microscope. There were these almost that look like almost like a squid, like a, I don't know what it was. There's a show.
You mean the three prong thing?
Yeah.
Or are you thinking of the Hydra vulgaris?
Actually, it looked like a hydra. Yeah.
Yeah, the Hydra vulgaris. Yeah. And the three prong, a lot of people don't know this, but nano CNTs, carbon nanotubes, can morph. We're talking an amazing. It's not life exactly. It's nanotechnology, but it is what they're calling inorganic life forms. That's their term, the term that's coming out in papers and science papers. But that one, the carbon nanotubes can actually morph into those three-prong or three-legged entities that looked like squid, what you thought looked like squid. So I think she, maybe she didn't know that at that point, but I'm in touch with Tony Pantalaresco, who's a herbalist up in Canada. And Tony's doing a lot of work on nanotechnology. So I quote him at length in the third book, along with Harald Kautzvella, another great, who also is looking from another angle at this technology, the nanotechnology in particular. And then, of course, there's Clifford's work. I mean, these are the three greats, not all this whole bunch of doctors, coming on the internet I don't know, making great careers for themselves, perhaps, and truth telling to the best of their ability for most of them, not all of them, but most of them. But to me, it's another level now. I mean, that has become sort of a distraction from what we really should be looking at, which is what is being dumped on us and we're breathing in and eating in GMO foods. That's another delivery system. And then the third delivery system, beyond the chemical trails and GMOs, is, of course, the inoculations. So we've got these big pharma assaults going on. And big pharma it's much more than drug companies. I'm telling you, I've been following them since, really since World War I, when they provided all the chemical warfare chemicals that killed an entire generation of European youth in Europe in that terrible chemical warfare that made Vietnam and it look like next to nothing. So we've been dealing with this cartel, and it is a cartel of great power. Pfizer's a member. All of the vaccine producers are members, and we've been dealing with them for over a century. And these great causal things that are so large, I know they make people feel small. I mean, here I am. I'm just a little old lady in the Pacific Northwest who is the only person at this point writing books on this stuff. I mean, what the heck? I don't even have a PhD in physics, and yet I can self-teach and learn and see how all these systems work together. It seems like a no-brainer to me. And yet, where are the scientists? Have they all signed NDAs? Are they all afraid for their lives because so many scientists have been killed? Yes, killed. And their families. Yes, that's still going on. I understand. But this is a very large cause. This is not about a career. This is about much, much more. So, I always do this on radio shows, try to invite scientists. I have about a dozen who follow me, but they're all mavericks. These are all the ones who've left the corporate fold of so-called scientists. It's really scientism. So I'm probably way off topic now. You're going to have to drag me back to where you want me to go.
Well, okay. It's all good, but so I guess we were talking about the inoculation, and we were kind of...
Oh, we haven't even begun to talk about it.
No, we haven't really got there yet, but
yeah.
Let me go over something here that we talked about when I had on you, Max Egan, and Matt Landman on years back.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You remember?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was...
No, I don't remember.
Been on a lot of shows, but yeah, we did a show, all four of us, and all of these technologies seem to be breaking our DNA. The airport scanner, Wi-Fi, cell phones, and then you have this vaccine that is changing our DNA. So we talked about maybe the Morgellons could be a third strand of DNA that they're trying to insert. But I mean, we could go a lot of ways with that. But I mean, why do they hate our DNA so much? That could go deep in itself, because who is behind? It almost is like inhuman. It's like, are these people not human that are behind it? But let's not go there yet. But going back to the DNA, the third strand of DNA, or is it the Morgellons that's the third strand? Or I'm starting to think maybe the inoculation could be the third strand of DNA. But something they break our DNA with this Wi-Fi, especially the airport scanner, and then they're putting something else in. So they're definitely not wanting Homo sapiens sapien DNA around anymore.
Well, let's go from an aerial perspective first. Yes, you're right. They want a transhuman race. They do not want the natural human race anymore. And I'm sure some of them, of the very highbrow elites who have some occult knowledge of what the human being really is. We certainly, in materialistic America, have no clue as to the greatness of this species, because we have constantly been conditioned to think of the power mongers of humanity as filled with power mongers, violence, or couch potatoes who do nothing. It's really interesting how media driven we are now. And that's why I've never owned a television, never will.
Good for you.
Everybody should get rid of their television along with their iPhone, and really read. I mean, I'm a very big reader, as you can imagine, because I don't know that you can be a really good writer without being a really good reader. I don't think so. So from an aerial perspective, we're this great race, but we have people over us, and we've allowed this to happen through the growing weakening of our will and our immune system. This is very huge. The will is a spiritual component of us. Now, we always have words like, where there's a will, there's a way. And that is true. We know what the will is, but we're so now conditioned to constantly adjust to whatever changes are coming down the pike from the media that, we get afraid from a news report, for example. I don't know why. It's just a news report, and I don't know if it's true or not. I'm going to have to investigate it. This idea of investigating what you're being told, it's part of what Rudolf Steiner talked about, that we would come to this point where we would have to really wean ourselves from the experts. And I think we're there because, I read Tom Cowan, MD, read Tom's book on how there is no virus, and to his attempt to liberate us from the germ theory. And that's a really huge step that we need to make in order to wean ourselves from two industries that make a huge amount of profit off of people's illness. I mean, do you go to a doctor for health? No, you go for drugs, or being cut and having something taken out or put in. No, we've lost the theme of health in the West. I don't know how the East is doing. I don't live there, but I know how it is here. I have not been to a doctor since I was 13 years old. I saw right away that at that point that he was telling my stepmother that I had appendicitis, when really I had lied and just didn't want to go to school. And he saw a quick way to make a couple $100 at that point. That's what it costs. Now it's like 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, who knows. And I realized that it was just a business for him. And that was it for me at 13. So I'm 75 now, and no doctors. I have no health records, no nothing from my entire life, because I studied Chinese medicine in my 20s. And I thought I was going to be a Chinese medicine doctor, and was on my way there when I stopped in Hawaii to wait for the ship to pick me up to take me to China. And I got all embroiled in something else, and life took me in a whole other direction.
Life's like that.
Yes. So back to the aerial perspective. Now, if we're going to ask about Morgellons, the way I look at it, and I'm not saying this is the truth. I mean, I checked with Clifford yesterday on the phone to make sure everything I'm saying that he says is accurate. But I have my own ideas about how it's used, and he certainly does not disagree with them. But he's a painstaking scientist in that he'll prove something 6 ways to Sunday before he'll ever say it. Morgellons was the beginning of what we're now seeing in the inoculations. And Morgellons, basically, people think of it, it's a bad name. It's from the 1700s. It was for a skin ailment, and it is now the CDC has admitted at least that it's a skin ailment and not some form of psychosis. Delusional parasitosis was the last name that they gave it to anyone who came to a doctor and complained about feeling creepy crawlies going on under their skin. And then, of course, there's these suppurating wounds in what we think of as the Morgellons survivor. Now, you used a phrase that I'm going to correct. I don't know if you meant this or not, but we all have Morgellons in us. We all have it in us. As far as the filament, there's sort of a black filament. We saw some photos of it during the lockdown that of people who have found them in the masks that a lot of people have worn.
They're like worm-like things, yeah.
And also on the swab for the so-called PCR test. Right. So Morgellons is still happening, but it's the technology that went into it, and it is self-replicating. It's got a lot of the same characteristics that the nanotechnology has, like graphene oxide, but it has what's called a cross-domain bacteria in it, CDB, which is basically the part of it which reproduces, which makes it able to reproduce itself in the body when it gets warm. So now we have something different with the graphene oxide, but we need to keep a thread going with the Morgellons that was dumped on us from the sky, and we breathed it in, and it began to live in our bodies. And in some people, in the people who have the lesions, or even the people who have the incredible rashes that simply do not go away, that is partially due to an electromagnetic influence in the environment. I have never had that suppurating outbreak, but I once, I've told this story before, Clifford and I wanted to meet and go over some microscope work of some of the specimens people had sent him. And at that time, he was living in the state next to mine in Idaho. So I drove over to Idaho. But 2 weeks before I set out, we'd made this plan over the internet or on the phone or whatever. 2 weeks before, I got some sort of weird outbreak on my calves, on my right calf first and then my left calf. And they weren't really Morgellons. They were like a rash. But this rash, if you just rub the head of it as it coming out of the body, what would come out was what looked to be an amber-colored crystal. And I had them all over my calves. At the knees, they stopped. So when I arrived in Idaho, we spent the week that we had, really scraping my legs with a razor blade in order to get these things off and put them under a high-powered microscope that Clifford had. So what we found was, just lots and lots of crystals. So I wasn't suspicious yet until I got back home. And within 2 weeks after I returned home, overnight they were gone. I mean, overnight. Wow. One day they're there, next day they're gone. And that's when I realized, oh my gosh, there's some sort of electromagnetic transmission going on that triggers these outbreaks. And that's how I now think of it when I'm confronted by people who have Morgellons and are in a lot of pain and discomfort and fear. That is the first thing I think of, is that they are being electromagnetically targeted and that it's coming out in a sore that looks a lot like Staphylococcus sore, has a rim around it. But in the middle, you'll often see these wires poking out. and they are wires. When you look at them under the microscope, there's a red one, a black one, and a blue one, I believe. Wow. So these are particularly active when the person like has a cell phone right next to them, or reaches in to get the toaster oven to get the toast. Whenever they're near electromagnetism, these wires just go nuts. They just love it. They love it. So that's the key to understanding what has now been put into people through the inoculation. To me, it's twofold, and we've seen this in a lot of the microscope work that's been coming out now for a little over a year. We see what I call a two-pronged assault in order to create a transhuman race. And that's what this is. It's all about transhumanism. And the one is what you're saying, the one having to do with the mRNA, with the gene drive, the genetic manipulation, the genetic changing going on in the cell, at the cell level through the mRNA. And that definitely could have to do with genetic lineage, not just with the idea of people not being able to conceive of children or low sperm count or any of that, but actually a genetic change. Now, I won't cover the third strand because I feel that the person who knows the most about that is Anthony Patch. And I'm no longer in touch with Anthony, unfortunately. But to me, he is the man who put forward the third strand theory in the most cogent way that I was able to understand. So I don't feel confident that I can pass muster on that, but I can talk about the second prong too. And the second prong is all the computer hardware on a nano scale that is now being found in the serums and in the blood of people who have received the serums, whether it's a booster or the initial shot. So that is very interesting because these things are all right angled, and they definitely are computer routers, circuit boards, you name it, computer, and that means that when we talk about the Bluetooth connection, you're familiar with that, right? That people who have been inoculated are showing up on Bluetooth and have their own MAC addresses, et cetera. And it all is printed, I believe, still on the dark web. Maybe it's even coming up on the regular web. I don't know. But that ability to transmit and receive has to do with computer software and hardware. And that's very much being set up. And maybe it's just being set up in the inoculated because of the desire of those who are experimenting on those people as guinea pigs, is to, through the Bluetooth electronic leash that they have on these people, they are now able to get the biometrics and get all the things that they need to know about how that particular batch of the serum is operating in that person's body. That could be. It could be only go that far. But it could also go this far, that those who are inoculated are now some of them are going to be are the gene manipulation and deep change in their humanity is going to take in many of them, and in others it's not going to take. Now, that's a very interesting question, if it is indeed even a question. Why in some will it actually work the way the Pfizer and everybody else wants it to work, and why in other situations will it not work? Okay, so let's think about that, because I have some ideas on that. In the case of it not working, in order to still run these people as slaves, basically slaves to the one world order, then you have the other prong of this assault, which is the computer leash that you now have these people on, and you can completely control them, their behavior, their thoughts, their feelings, electromagnetically. So that's how I see the scenario. And am I willing to talk about that? It's maybe something else? No, not at all. I've spent hundreds of hours on this. No, this is how it is. It's a two-pronged attack. I'm just not sure quite why it's a two-pronged attack and how far that genetic, maybe it's the third strand, how far that genetic change in people will go. But I read a document that I want to now bring up. It's pretty radical, particularly for Westerners who don't even believe in reincarnation or don't believe in a spiritual world or anything. When I first heard about this whole inoculation and lockdown thing 3 years ago, about almost, a lot of people immediately leaped to its depopulation. And I didn't at all feel it was depopulation. I felt that if it was anything, it was a lot of experimentation and lying to people and appealing to their heartstrings that they're saving humanity by going and getting the jab, was much more like the enemies that I've been studying, the global elite and how they think, how they do things. And I also thought this, because of my Rudolf Steiner background, if they were depopulating, now that they are culling the race, I would say yes, they are.
There's a lot of people dying.
There's a lot of people dying.
Yeah.
But the culling it's purposeful, but it's not a depopulation. It sort of goes along with experimentation. Some things work, some things don't. Also, if there is an electromagnetic element operating remotely, like in the recent death of this athlete. I mean, there's so many athletes that are dying one after the other because, of course, this has to do with the blood and the heart, et cetera. But if indeed there is some external decision made about this person's going down, so boom, they're down. Still, the elites, many of whom at the top of the food chain are very familiar with some occult laws of how things work. And I think a lot of them read Steiner just to learn a little more, because he was one of the first, if not the first, who really opened up the gates on some truths that previously had been kept secret. Anyway, the idea being that if you want to depopulate a planet for the sake of a future that you have in mind for the planet, and you have the resources and the money and everything, the thing you're going to have to deal with is that a lot of these people that you're going to kill are going to turn around and come right back. They're going to reincarnate, because reincarnation is a law. Whether the West recognizes it or not, that is neither here nor there. Most of the world, the so-called more primitive people, the developing countries, the religions of the world, they all know there's reincarnation. I mean, it really, I could give a talk on that, of how I decided that in my 20s, I decided, that experience I had when I was 8, of remembering somebody that I knew 2,500 years ago. I see now that the divine has in mind a process of spiritual evolution for the human being that requires sequential Earth lives in order to get the experience of becoming a good person, not because you're afraid of the power structures, but you love the good, you love the true, you love the beautiful. So you serve these things. I mean, that takes a bunch of lifetimes to get to that point, because most people are just want to get by, and or maybe get the most they can, the biggest bang for their buck. So I thought, yeah, they're not doing global depopulation, because unless they have figured out the reincarnation problem. Well, what if I told you that they may have? I mean, now that's scary. What if I told you that it is possible that through this jab program, they actually are inoculating people with something that is going to take away their ability to return to planet Earth? Now that got my attention.
Is that something that was indicated to you by your research?
Well, there's a book coming out at the end of January, which has to do with this. And it's from a guy who is working with a small group of people in Europe who all have sort of extrasensory abilities. And what they are finding is they are being sought after by families of people who have died post inoculation, and messages coming from the people on the other side, as we say, who have died and are now in the spiritual world, that they're all messed up. All the parts of us that have the spiritual organs and the spiritual bodies. And I mean, we look like we're just a slab of meat, right? A head, a torso, arms, legs. But within this, at the moment, if you've ever been present when someone dies, at the moment they die, I have had that wonderful honor twice, you immediately feel something has just lifted out and has left the room. Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's more than we can see in that electromagnetic spectrum, where the visible realm that we are locked into with our five senses. There's all this other electromagnetic spectrum we can't see. And now we have machines that those who have enough money can buy and use to see into all sorts of things that we call quantum, for lack of wanting to avoid that word spiritual. That's fine. But the quantum levels of reality are subatomic, supraatomic, whatever you want to say. I mean, it's another realm. And so these people who are working in Europe are trying to help these people get their alignment back of these spiritual bodies and these spiritual organs that the human soul depends upon. And that's the book that I've read. I read it in manuscript, half of it. And now the entire book will be coming out in the end of January, available at Steiner Books. And it's called COVID Vaccines from a Spiritual Perspective. And the author is, I know his name, but I can't remember it right now. Wait a minute.
That ought to be a mandatory read, though.
Thomas Mayer, Mayer.
Okay.
So that's the third unknown. Now, the two-pronged attack, I'm absolutely certain of, as to why it's two-pronged and what the real, we're back to that person. Remember I mentioned they probably know that some people, the genetic change is going to happen, and in some people it's not going to happen. And it could be due to the batch. Could be that that batch was faulty or whatever. But it also could be that person, that soul in there, says, No way. No way.
Yeah.
Now, do we have that kind of authority? Oh, yes, we do. But do we use it? No. We go to the experts and we do what they tell us to. Yeah. It's pathetic. So anyway, that's where I'm at on those. So I have three things going on with the inoculation, in my opinion.
Okay. Wow. That is probably pretty spot on there. I'd say so too. I mean, I do see it as a genocide in that there's a lot of people dying, but maybe they're just not taking to the hardware, so to speak. They're not taking to the technology.
Or they make a decision not to go with the hardware because they come into their higher self. I'm sure you know the higher self. That's the one that says the conscience thing. Like, you really shouldn't do that. Yeah. And you really shouldn't, because the conscience belongs to the higher self and knows a heck of a lot more than the lower self, right? The lower ego.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah.
Jumping back a little bit, you mentioned graphene oxide. Now, when I remember hearing about all the spraying, you always heard about aluminum, barium, and all these metals, but I never really heard about graphene oxide until the shot came out. Did I just miss that detail, or is it?
No, I think you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And when it came out, I mean, I'm going to make a list of what it's used for. I have a bit of a list, but I'm sure that it's a much longer. First of all, just know that graphene oxide is called by the geoengineers and those who work with it in biotechnology. It's called the holy grail of science. I mean, I know that's a term you can toss around, but it is tremendously powerful. It's the biggest, it's the most powerful conductor you can possibly have. Yeah. So if they're putting it in through the inoculation, and not just that we're breathing it from geoengineering operations, like, I'll give you an example, the polar vortex. If they're trying to make chemically nucleated snow, which is what most of our snow now is, because it's completely controlled. It's not the old snow. Don't let children eat it. Never, never, never. If they are using it to make chemically nucleated snow and ice, then we breathe that in. And, we're in a big atmosphere. It's a big bubble. So if they're using it, say, in the Midwest of the United States where it does snow, and then I'm out here where it very rarely snows, or you're in Hawaii, we're still getting the graphene oxide in the mix inside the big bubble that we all breathe from, right?
Yeah. Because
you have these trade winds and you have this and you have that, and it's moving all around. That's one of the big problems with the geoengineered weather. So the graphene oxide being injected, however, definitely has to do with, I think it's called Tesla. It's a form of transformation it goes through once it gets warm inside the body, and it begins to make, Tesla phoresis, it's called. And, that you can see a video on the internet, which is very telling of what it does. So they get inside the body through the inoculation, and the warmth releases them from the sort of stasis that they're in, and they begin to self-replicate and make long threads, reminding us of Morgellons, long threads that then can be made into new machine-like veins or nerves. So the idea of that it becomes our transhuman nerves in the transhumans. Now we're in the realm of truly turning the human being into a machine, not just a slave, but a machine. And the graphene oxide is very connected to that that objective. I know that. Anyway, that's part of it, part of the story.
Okay. And one thing too, I see a lot of what people just skim the surface with. They'll see geoengineering is about blocking out the sun. Well, we know that global warming is not, climate change is a hoax, but Bill Gates wanting to block out the sun and other people. I mean, is that just a cover story for?
No.
I mean, does he really want to block out the sun, and why?
Yeah.
If he himself would probably know that climate change is a hoax. So what's the real reason in blocking out the sun?
Well, let's unwrap that for a moment, because climate change is not just a hoax. It's a term that's being bandied about along with global warming as a cover story, no doubt about that. But when the various various professionals came out and said it was a hoax, what they didn't say is there is climate change going on, and there is global warming going on, because those ionospheric heaters cannot work without warming the atmosphere.
Correct. Yeah.
That's what they do. So they have to control that factor in the geoengineering, and they're constantly, moving. Weather systems is partially, low pressure, high pressure. They're constantly, the AI systems are constantly sensing and maneuvering that in order to keep it to work for what they want. So let's just say there is that, but you and I know that when they use those terms, they are not referring to the geoengineering going on. Correct. They hide that. You hide it in plain sight. I mean, basically. So what is going on is that these things that warm the atmosphere are being balanced with other things. And you brought up a question, and what was it? The question, I'm forgetting it.
A lot of people look into it and say, well, Bill Gates is blocking out the sun. And then you see this whole argument online of different articles like, we don't want to geoengineer, but we may have to if it gets to this. And then it's like, geoengineering is bad. There's all this like back and forth on it while they're really doing it anyway. But why would they want to block out the sun, knowing that they know that it's climate change, as they are saying it's not happening?
Well, as you can see, and you don't need to read an essay on it, you can see that the sun is being greatly blocked out by the plasma cirrus cloud cover that comes in the wake of the big trails that are not contrails, they're chemical trails. They have a signature, that the contrail. I haven't seen a contrail other than from a small plane or jet in years. There are no contrails. No. Because all the fuel is chemical, just on the simple level. All the JP8, all the biofuel, all of it, it's all chemical. Okay. So you get this cloud cover, and yes, it is keeping out the solar rays, but because they've got this story of global warming, right? So we've got to keep the sun out. No, that's not the reason they're keeping the sun out. The sun is our life. That's our life.
Yeah.
And it's the life of plants. And they are attempting in 6 ways to Sunday to undermine the entire nature edifice. And you see that by them controlling all the weather. What is the weather? The weather is just, it's nature, it's the ionosphere, it's the Earth's life, it's self-governing, it's worked for millions of years, and yet now it's being taken over. And so the idea of taking over the forces of the sun to where, like now, I mean, I remember when people, you may have been too young then, but I remember when people used to laugh that someday they're going to charge us for water. Where are we now, right? The water and air. They're going to charge us for breathing fresh air. Well, we're there. Yeah. So imagine that they take the plasma that the sun is, this huge ball of burning plasma, and they take charge of the sun in order to sell you sunlight. Just imagine that. I know it's coming. So everything in nature is to be run by corporations who are these people, or are they even people? Is it just what I learned this term from an Italian who worked in the Vatican when I lived in England. Egregores. Are they egregores? In other words, are they spiritual amalgams of thousands and thousands of people's wills that they have now given to their corporation or their government or their whatever big giant institution, and the egregore is running everything. Another type of AI system. In fact, what are AI systems? What's in them? What is running them? Yeah. They say that humans program them, but that doesn't mean that the programming remains the same, because now they're self-programming, the supercomputers and the quantum computers. So anyway, there's just tons of questions that if we just pull ourselves out of a materialistic rendering of them, instead of just always materialistic, showing no imagination, no ability to reach into the spiritual dimensions of this planet and of the spiritual dimensions of those attempting to undermine this planet and turn it to their own will. We've got to get beyond that. I mean, I have that great phrase. What is it? If you can't solve a problem with the same thinking that created it.
Right.
I mean, let's take that seriously. That's not just a bunch of words. We've got to think outside the box, as we like to say, because, it's all box thinking, as far as I see, in just about everyone I know. So that's the sun. Rudolf Steiner even says that the solar light, the quality of the solar light is life itself for us. And we have not seen that solar quality. I don't know, maybe in Hawaii you are still seeing it, but I have not seen it. Huh?
When they don't spray.
Well, yeah, but then you're inside the atmosphere that's the bubble that's completely moving things around, and you just don't see it anymore. I always say to people who say, "Oh, Elana, we haven't had chemtrails and it's all clear. It's a clear day." And I say, "Okay, if it's a clear day, is it a deep blue or is it a baby blue? If it's a baby blue, you don't have a clear day.
That's
right. It's still in the atmosphere." Yes. Yeah. So I would imagine none of us have seen the pure sunlight. Maybe in Tibet or something they can. In developing countries where you don't have as much technology, you might have a chance to actually see nature working. But of course, the corporate boys, they have other agendas in mind for those people as time goes on. So anyway, the sun is a spiritual power along with a physical power. And we need that sunlight. We need it. We need Absolutely. That beautiful, beautiful sun.
So probably should start wrapping this up. And it's a lot for a lot of people. Like I've looked into this for a long time, so I'm not disturbed by it. And you're not, because you've known it for so long, but this is probably very dark and disturbing for many, because it feels like there's nothing we can do against such a monster of EMF and bombardment of nanomaterial from the skies, and besides like the barbarian in people that want to just blow up cell phone towers and HARP and all this stuff, what is a better solution we can offer about all this? Is there a way out that you see a light at the end of the tunnel, that because we're, hurtling fast into this world, 5G now 6G.
We're in it.
Yeah, we're in it. Yeah.
Yeah, there is no more hurdling. I mean, okay, so I don't have much sympathy for people who want some sort of easy solution, because this has been developing for decades, and people could have come forward decades ago. I mean, I've been on this trail since the 60s. I'm one of those 60s people that did not take a lot of drugs and did not get lost in Wall Street. So I think the first thing people can do is, first of all, how radical should I get? Get rid of their TV,
as radical,
get rid
as
of their iPhone, and start reading. And I've written 3 juicy books about this very technology. You read those books, it's not going to be a walk in the park. There are a lot of footnotes you may or may not want to read. And you may or may not want to do more research. But the more knowledge we have, the more power we have. And that's the unfortunate part of being in the masses, is that they've been keeping their eyes on the experts so much and waiting for the experts to save them, waiting for Mr. Trump to save them, waiting for whoever to save them, that they aren't developing themselves. And this is, if ever there was a clarion call for us to develop ourselves, this is it.
Yeah.
You cannot get much bigger than this. And so knowledge is power. Scientia est potentia. That's a very, very old adage. And what does it mean? Well, knowledge is power is something that the occultists and the big corporate boys know very well. And they keep as much knowledge from us as possible. And then they lie the rest of the time. And they deceive. And they entertain. And they do anything to distract the masses and keep them from developing. Doesn't that infuriate anyone out there? Doesn't that get you? So for you to just sort of wilt and say, well, there's nothing I can do except hope and pray. Well, not really. Not really. Those 2 words should be powerful words, not your last ditch effort to feel like your life is worth something. I mean, the more I do this, the more I put forward the truth. It's like an elixir or something. It just makes me stronger. The more truth I know,
yes,
the stronger I get. Yeah, I suppose I went through depression now and then when I first started out, when my little illusions were popping and dying. But who wants illusions, even if they make you feel better?
Yeah.
To me, I tell people that's the first thing is knowledge. Look at your lifestyle, clean it up. You're still doing drugs, still smoking pot and taking all the antidepressants and everything that they want you to be taking. Get off of them. Figure out how to do that. You learn what electromagnetism is. Learn your footprint around you. Where are the towers? What kind of electromagnetic devices do you have, and do you need them all? Or are they just toys? Are you still doing video games? Forget it. Except unless you want to study one, because they're using those for pre-programming people.
Correct.
And you could maybe find out how they're doing that, and that would be something you could share. There's 1,000 ways to be an activist. It's not just joining a group and marching in the streets. It's a matter of holding within you knowledge and truth. And I think you're in good company with me. And if it is true that the spiritual lives beyond this life, which of course is true, you join people like me. I mean, I try to be an example of what I'm recommending others do. I live it. I do it. I walk the talk. And we should all be doing that. And really not allowing depression and fear to creep in. Those are like entities or something that, and you can, we're human beings. We're a very high order. We can get rid of those things with just like that.
Yeah. I think, yes, to take this knowledge in as empowerment rather than as a fear thing too, because I think a lot of people, when they're stuck on a lower gear, when they're like, oh no, more bad news, I don't want to know all this stuff too. But once you know it, you have more power over it. It is empowerment.
Oh yes. And I don't I don't know an easy way out of this. I was talking to an activist I knew years ago, an anti-geoengineering activist, and she mentioned that, well, we thought we could end the chemtrails. And I said, well, I never thought that. I never thought that for a minute, because it's all connected to the secret space program that Catherine Austin Fitts talks about, and that they pour stolen money from taxpayers into while they're trying to become gods on this planet and oust nature and the God that nature serves. I have never thought they would get rid of. They need those chemical trails because those are doping the atmosphere so they can ionize it, so they can keep it electric, so they can run all their operations, and so they can have complete control, full spectrum dominance over planet Earth and us and all who live on the planet as humans, mammals, plants, you name it. Okay, let's just, yes, they're megalomaniacs. We can call them all the names we want in the book, but what we need to do is to really take hold of our will and teach ourselves the truth, because the truth itself is very powerful. It operates extremely powerfully. So, I'm excited to be here. I mean, okay, yeah, I don't get depressed because I see how this works, and I am a true human being, and I am bent on trying to draw as many real human beings out there as I can into this spiritual war that we're engaged in now.
You are a true human being, and you've dedicated your life to this. And there's something about dedicating your life to this that you no longer have to serve the things that enslave you as much, because they don't have the power over you that they once did, because you realize that they are lies. And so you get into a higher gear, again saying higher gear, but when you start not serving those things that enslave you and start to be able to rise above it and become someone that's dedicated to getting out a message that will help people and understand the real world around them.
The real purpose of being here. I mean, right. No one is here by accident. Everybody who is here now on planet Earth chose to be here because this is a technological era. And to say that you've never liked technology since high school and science is a cop-out. You are living in a technological era. Get interested because you chose this. So that's really how I feel.
Yep, we chose to be here. Well, Elana,
and people can get let me tell where they can get the books. Yeah. The third one, Geoengineered Transhumanism, you don't need to read the previous two to read that one. You can get a color edition from the Rudolf Steiner bookstore in Seattle. And that's the best edition, because the Amazon edition, and of course, Amazon's a big giant company. Yes. I prefer a little tiny bookstore. But the Amazon version is only black and white illustrations. There are 60 illustrations. You would do well to have the color edition. And take your time going through it. You don't have to speed read through it. You're not going to be able to. And start a reading group with a few other people. That's the best way to do this.
Yes, and your website is elanafreeland.com. Okay. Yeah. Elana, thank you for your time and all your work. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for yours, because you get the word out.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, you're welcome anytime on again, and I have to read your book, your newest book, too, because I'm behind on books, but I'll be getting there.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.